Hey, this is Daniel Grove, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to use a real image, grab the perspective and the camera angle, bring that into Blender, and model based off of a real set or image to get proportions perfect. So this came out of my recent sci-fi interiors project, which I'm still working on. It will be available on Gumroad and Blender Market. And this is one of the interiors I made just yesterday, and it is from Star Wars. Most of my sci-fi set pieces are originals and unique, but there is a Star Trek interior, and this is my first Star Wars interior that I've been making for this project. And I'm really happy how it turned out, but it just felt a little bit off. And so I wanted to use an image from the actual movie to bring that into Blender and basically model off of the real image so that I can make sure everything was as close as I could get it. So to do that, you're going to need a free program called fSpy. And here it is. Now what fSpy does is it allows you to trace the perspective lines in a photo. It will create a 3D grid and a camera, and you can bring that data into Blender and begin building a scene based off of an image. So I'm going to go to File, Open Image, and I found a few high resolution images. By the way, if you want to search for high resolution images, it's really easy. All you do is type in what you're looking for, go to Images, click on Tools, click on Size and Large. So now we'll search for high resolution images. And if you open one, put your mouse over here, you can see the resolution right here. You know, it's not quite HD, but it's bigger than the small images that are all over the web. And occasionally you'll get lucky and find a full resolution grab from a 4K or an HD version of the movie. So anyway, here's my image in fSpy. I'm going to turn off dim image so I can see the image better. And from here, we can drag these points and line them up with the perspective of the actual scene. But I'm going to try a 1-point perspective because there's really only one point that's clearly visible as far as the dimensions go. You see this walkway is diminishing into infinity over to the left. The vertical line is not really diminishing in any way because this camera angle is in a kind of flat. So anyway, I'm going to do my best to line up these lines. Let's see. I believe that 2 would normally be the horizon. And then these lines that say 1, the red ones, are the vanishing points. So I'm going to line this up with the walkway. Now this scene is weird because there is a lot of lens distortion. This walkway he's standing on is obviously flat, right? It's a flat walkway. It's a catwalk. But look how it dips down in the middle, right below the number 1 where this red reflection is, and it goes back up at the start of my point over here on the right. That's because of lens distortion. This is a very wide angle lens. I don't know how wide. Could be a 12 or 16 millimeter, not really sure because these are film and cinema cameras. They're a little different in their sizing, but it's got distortion. It's very visible. And you can also see on this pipe. So I'm going to just, for example, show you if I start with the bottom of this pipe here and then follow the pipe where it ends over here. Look at the pipe. It kind of warps up and then bends back down. It's not actually bending. It's just the lens distortion that they did not remove, or maybe they added it. I don't know. So we've got our walkway disappearing into infinity using 1 and 1. And then the green line, if I remember right, is the horizon, which is kind of hard to see, but I'm just going to leave it right here. So let's turn on our 3D grid, and I need to find the right setting here. Maybe this third one. Yeah. Now, why is the floor up here? I don't know. I had the same problem earlier, but don't worry. Once we get the camera set in Blender, we can move the camera. So we can tell already that this 3D grid is not really following the 3 dimensions of the ship. So we can kind of tweak and play with things. This is sort of the axis tilt this way, and these red lines will rotate and move around the grid here. So I'm just going to play with this and try to get it to where it seems like it's following the straight lines in the scene. I have actually pre-prepared an image that has lines overlaid that I did in Photoshop. So you can draw straight lines with like a bright color in GIMP or Photoshop. And let me just open that up. It might make this a little bit easier. Open image in my pictures folder, Hux ship lines. There we go. Now this is a little bit of this is actually a wider crop, which is weird. I don't know. I'm not even going to try to explain why it's wider, but it's movie stuff. So you smart people out there will know what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's line up these lines. Like I said, I drew these yellow lines myself. I know they look so beautiful, and Photoshop to help me use fSpy a little bit more accurately. So I'm tracing along the lines there. Now the whole grid is like rotated, which is weird. And it looks like when I move this dot over here, it twists it in the right direction. That looks good to me, actually, which is, I don't know why that line isn't, lined up. Could be because of lens distortion, not sure. Images that don't have any or have less lens distortion, it's obviously much easier to follow and trace things like this. Okay, let's see what happens if I move this one around. That kind of rotates it. Yeah, there. I wish this were more precise, but you use what you got. There we go. That looks pretty good, although this line is not quite warping the way I think it should go. Let's see if I play with these handles. There we go. That, I feel like that's following that line much better. Now, if you do know the focal length of your camera, you can use this slider over here, which is pretty cool because I have it set to custom camera. So you enter your sensor size, and then you can play with your focal length, which it says 24. That might be default, but yeah, if we play with it, we get flatter, wider, all kinds of weird stuff. So we can use this as well to sort of line up the perspective there. I think that looks pretty good with those ceiling beams going from left to right. That looks good. So let's just say we're good. I'm going to pretend I did this perfectly. I know later I'm going to kick myself. I'm going to find all those little mistakes, all the little problems that I didn't fix. So we're going to, once you are done, go to File and Export and Save As. This is going to save a fSpy file. So let's name it Hux Ship fSpy. You don't have to add that part at the end. It will add it as a file extension, but I'm just doing that for this. Save. And then let's go over to Blender. Let me open up a brand new blend file. New. By the way, I'm using, this is super cool, I'm using Blender 3.0 Alpha with the K Cycles X add-on. It's not really an add-on. It's a whole other build of Blender. And man, K Cycles is crazy fast. I had a render last night that took 2 minutes in Blender 2.92. And in K Cycles X 3.0 Alpha, it took 36 seconds. And that's pretty common. Like almost all my renders are 4 to 5 times faster, which is really amazing. So anyway, we're going to go to import, and I have fSpy here because I have the add-on added on and enabled in the add-ons, preferences tab. So if you don't have that, you got to download it, install the add-on, and you'll have this here. So once you have that, you can find your fSpy file that we just created, which I think I put in the pictures folder for some weird reason. There it is. Hux ship fSpy.fSpy. This is the early one I did. This is a new one. Import fSpy project file. And here we go. It actually puts the image as your camera background image, which you can get to here. Background images, you can turn up or down the opacity. If you put back, it'll be behind the grid. If you put front, it'll be in front, foreground of everything. But this is a really nice feature for tracking and tracing things. So as I said, the floor of my 3D file is on the ceiling of the picture. I still don't know why, but that's okay. We can just grab our camera and watch this. G, Z, Z. Oh, actually Z again, and move it straight up. So the perspective is staying. Nothing getting warped or twisted or rotated, but we're just moving it straight up. Now the grid of Blender looks like it's on the floor of the scene, which is cool. So now is the real meat of this video is adding objects into the 3D scene and tracing along these lines of a real set. In this case, is a movie set. So let's put our cursor in the middle with Shift C. It also moves your view for some annoying reason. Press 0 to get back to our camera view. There's our 3D cursor in the middle of our scene. Shift A, and let's just add a cube. And I'm going to shrink it down, and let's go into wireframe mode just to make things a little more transparent and easy to deal with. And I'm going to move this cube. I'm going to try and line this cube up over here because I'm going to build these columns, these structural support ridges that I just love so much about the scene. There's our little vacuum droid. I guess that's the new mouse droid of the new Star Wars. I don't know. So here we go. And I'm not sure about the thickness, so we may need to play with that, but let's start messing with this. Now to do this easier, I keep one view in the camera view, which keeps the perspective and the background image. And then I'm going to split and do another view in 3D. So to split, put your mouse right in the corner of this, not a window, but the section, I don't know, area, and you'll get a crosshairs. Click and drag down, and that allows you to split. Okay, so change this to, well, it's already in 3D viewport. Let's just change our angle just to get a kind of an aerial view. Makes it easier to grab things and move things. So I'm going to grab this top face, and with my move tool, I'm going to move this straight up, and we're going to make this first section. There we go. And then E, drag upwards to extrude upwards. Oh, a little too high. Drag it down, shift it back out. There we go. Cool. See what I did? Just tracing the scene. And then I'm going to actually move these faces backwards. Oops. I'm in X-ray mode, which means you can grab faces that are on the back side, so just be careful. There we go. We got the right ones. Drag them straight back, pretty far back, because that's like a deep. There's a computer whole console here that we will build, hopefully. There, and then this top face, I'm going to extrude it up again, all the way to the ceiling. And then this will be the beam that goes all the way across the ceiling. So E, and that's about the middle. We're going to use mirror to make this, double. So go to your modifiers, add mirror. Because the origin point is not in the middle, it's going to mess up, but I'm going to make a floor plane anyway. So let's just make an empty plane, and we're going to use this as the floor later. But right now it's just our center, because the floor is always in the center for these types of scenes. So go back to your thing, structural thing. I don't know what to call it. Choose your mirror object and pick that plane right in the middle, and then choose the Y axis. At least for me, that gets it to go in the opposite direction. If you did something different, then you may need to use X. But for me, Y. There we go. And then let's drag this face back right in the middle to meet, to connect. And then we can use an array to duplicate this down the hallway. So array, and change the distance to line up with that right there. Now the width of the cube, I think, is not wide enough, because you just look at this width right here. See this computer panel? It's not lining up. So my cube is right on this edge, but not over here. So I'm going to tab into edit mode, A to select all, make sure I'm in median point, and then SX to make it a little bit thicker. Tab out of edit mode and move it back there. That looks about right there. Maybe a little bit thicker. SX, and then reposition it there. Okay. Yeah, I think that lines up just right. Now, this instance, because we're using an array modifier, let's go to solid view, is just too far down the hallway. So we can change that with the array. So hold shift and click and drag. When you hold shift and drag a number slider, it makes it more smaller increments. So it's more precise. Now there is actually another beam over here behind Kylo Ren. You can see, or sorry, Hux. You can see the beam up here that is the top. So I'm actually going to move this whole thing back along the red. Here we go. So there, and then make another array and turn on this and this right here, so that when you go into edit mode, you can just grab a face on any of these instances. This is the only real one right here, but you can grab an arrayed instance or even a mirrored instance and start editing, which is really just handy. I love that. All right, where did I go? Oh, press 0 to get back to camera view. Yeah, awesome. And we see the beam up here is almost perfectly lined up. I think that the beams that are in this real set, I think they do actually curve up. I don't think that's lens distortion. There is a slight curve. So that's why my things are not lining up very well. So I could grab this face. I can move it upwards to find where it's meeting right there. And, I need to do a little bit more detailed editing to really catch that curve and make it look exact. Like maybe there, and GZ to move that up there. GZ to move that there. This phase, move that right there. There we go. Kind of got a curve going on that. Oh, that looks pretty nice. Wow. That's probably the best freehand curve I've ever made. 0 into camera view again. All right, so that is the basics of that. Now the computer console here is super easy. You just let's actually use. It's going to screw up if we add faces. Like if I extrude this out, watch, it's going to mess with everything with the array. So maybe if you want to keep everything one piece for the sake of simplicity, it's going to complicate a few other things, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm going to set my 3D cursor right there. And I'm going to add a cube. See, it screwed up the whole array, but that's okay. We'll fix it in a second. And let's drag it out, make it real thin. This is like the desk that the computers sit on. And then as you look, if you look in the camera, it's kind of a slanted slope, right? Not quite a 45. So let's drag these pieces straight up. Oh, let's fix our array. Probably wondering where everything went. There we go. And this computer bench does need to go out a little bit further. So I'm going to hold Alt and Shift and grab these faces. And I want them to connect to the one next to it. So this is going to be tricky. Extend it and then shrink the array. See if it lines up. Oh, a little bit more. So drag it out and then bring it back in. And there's going to be a little overlap. It's all right. You can fix that later. There we go. So we got the beams, we got the computer console, and we need to build the rest of that computer console. So back to 0 for camera view. I think I made everything. Let me just hide the cube. Yeah, the desk is a little too high. So Control L to grab that. Remember, we made a whole new cube for this. This is not part of the beam. It's the same mesh and object, but it's a separate, I don't know, separate polygons. So I'm going to GZ to move it down and try to line it up. There we go. Grab this top face. We'll get out of X-ray mode. That might make it a little bit easier. Okay, there we go. Copy that angle and then extrude this. Oh, it needs to go down a little bit more. Down. There we go. Now extrude it up. And then this like screen, let me hide this again. This screen that's leaning towards this person follows the exact forward angle of these beams. So we can just copy that, just kind of eyeball it on the top screen up here. There, looks pretty much exact, right? And how high do they go? They go up a little bit higher, actually, probably all the way up to there. Now we gotta move it forwards again. Try to copy that angle. We can go to a flat view. For me, that's Control 3. So I just noticed somehow I've been building everything upside down. I literally don't know how that happened without me noticing, or just in general how that happened. That's really weird because my camera, what the heck? How is everything upside down? That's hilarious. Well, let's fix that. A to select all, Shift C to put my cursor in the middle, and then we're just going to rotate everything, right? Everything 180. So, or pivot point to 3D cursor, R, X 180. There you go. Now if I press 1 for a flat view, yep, it's correct. That is crazy. I've never had that happen before. I just built the whole scene upside down and didn't even know. Where was I? Oh, yes, computer consoles and stuff. That looks pretty cool, huh? Look at that. It's like a grid overlay of the real set. So we went up high, and I think this light is actually also on at an angle. So this needs to go up a little higher. Let's change this angle up here. Okay, so this face. I'll go back to individual origins. There you go. GZ. Let's move it all the way to the top of the beam. And again, we have to copy that angle. Control 3 for me gets this. I guess it's the back view. Yeah. Okay, and then maybe we can just extrude up. The top of this set is pretty dark. You can't quite see what's happening up here. There's some greebles. There's some more light panels. There's more light panels and more square greebles just to fill in the space up there. So we can like do this. Just kind of extrude it out. Maybe move it up a little bit and meet in the middle. There we go. Looks cool to me. Lots of room for greebles and pipes and lights. Speaking of pipes, let's make this humongous sewage pipe, because that's obviously what it's got to be, right? Carrying all the poop through the ship. So let's make that. So let's bring our cube back. Let's make this its own object. So our 3D cursor is still in the middle, which is nice. That way when we make a shape, we know where it's going to end up, right in the middle. Let's add a few extra vertices to this guy. Let's make it 64, enter, and RY90, enter. So we rotated it in the right direction, raise it up, and let's move it over here. It's somewhere over here. Not sure where it's going to land, but it does go. Let me hide everything so we can see. It does go through the beams, these ceiling support things. I just love my technical knowledge of construction. Trusses? I don't know. So I'm going to move this around, try to position it. This yellow line that I drew followed the pipe as best as I could. So if you look over here, this line stops at the bottom of the pipe. This one I kind of guessed at the top. And over here, let me hide this crazy cylinder. This starts at the bottom, and this one kind of ends at the top where I can see it. So this yellow line should be where the pipe goes if there weren't any lens distortion. But there's a lot. So yeah, I'm trying to use these yellow lines as like my guide. There. Move it into the scene a little further. Scale it along the x-axis. Now this empty area over here is actually kind of, there's like a computer console or two here. There's a door. There's another door. So these little support trusses stop right here, and there's a door right here next to the right of this stormtrooper. So there is empty space here. That's okay. All right, so that looks pretty good to me, and it does intersect all these beams up here. You can see it's going nicely through the beams. Maybe move it down a little bit and then over, because these beams actually have like this cool dip in all of them. You can see it right here behind Snoke's cheekbone, which, man, look at those cheekbones. He's got it going on. Woo. So there's a dip there, and the cylinder goes through it. There's a dip here. Cylinder goes through it. So maybe we'll try to build that too. All right, cool. Let's do that dip, baby, dip. Where are we? Too many faces. Okay, so this face looks pretty close to where the pipe is. But I'm going to slide these edge loops down. So to select an edge loop, which is a square, in this case, a square that goes all the way around, I'm going to hold Alt and just select that edge. See, look, if I grab one of these, it grabs the whole edge loop around. So select an edge loop and press GG to slide it on down, and then grab this one and GG to slide it. I want it to be, pretty uniformly on both sides of the pipe. And then we can do this a few different ways to make this curve. We can extrude straight down and then just scale it along the Y-axis. That looks getting a little funky. Another way we could do it is make 2 loop cuts, hit plus and enter again. And I'm just going to grab these bottom faces. Can't see this one because it's covered up. There we go. We can do that. That's probably better topology. I was just commenting to someone on a recent video how I don't care about topology because I don't do character design. I don't do rigging. I don't do organic stuff. So I can get away with a lot of bad topology. So this is good for me. So select these edges and this edge, and actually not those edges, just these two, and then Control B to bevel. And if you hit plus a bunch of times, you'll get a nice curve. And there, not exact, but I think that's pretty decent. Yeah, that's good. Like I said, I don't care about topology. I just care about how it looks in the end. And nice. Oh, we need to mirror this tube. Sorry, I'm editing with the tiniest screen. I really apologize about that. Let's duplicate this guy. So add mirror modifier. Select that ground, that floor object, which we haven't done anything with the eyedropper, and then Y, turn off X. There we go. Cool. So everything is mirror modified, which means you only have to edit one, and the other one copies it. All right, now this pipe has a bunch of cool extrusions for really no reason. I mean, seriously, guys, like, does it have to have these chunks, these rings on it? No, but it looks cool. So let's do that. And this ring really only needs to be as long as one of these truss segments, and then it's going to duplicate. So let's just shrink it down. And let's join it to the truss. So Shift select that, Control J. Now it did offset the width just a little bit. If you notice that, it shifted the width. So let's fix that with the array modifier tweak. Hold Shift and click and drag. It's just because the pipe was a little bit too long. There we go. All right, now let's edit this pipe. So I'm going to get my reference image open down here. There we go. This is the one with the lines over it, so I apologize. It's a little annoying, but anyway, so we've got a flat base. You can see here like a real flat piece. And on the top view, the top view is where I'm going to be editing. So drag out a little bit. Okay, and then it gets narrow. It comes out, gets narrow, goes out a while, gets pretty big, goes down. Oh, by the way, I'm using I and E. So I for inset, E for extrude, I for inset, E for extrude. And this is going to finish it off. I think I need to scale this whole thing out. I've been making it too short. So let's just grab that. I held Alt and then selected this, and it grabbed the whole ring. And I've held Control plus. And the more you press plus, the more it'll grow your selection, which is really cool. So now I can just slide this whole thing down a little bit. And let's get back to our 3D view, because I don't know why I did a reference image. It doesn't really make sense. just so we can really see how long each piece is. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. It's a little hard to see now because we got so many things going on. Okay, so this chunky piece needs to be way out here. Yeah, I was way off. Plus, plus. All the way out here. And the scale is super off. Like, it looks so tiny now. Probably because we moved it around in the scene. So we can make it thicker, not a big problem. So Control plus, plus, plus. And then just, so if we do S to scale it, look what happens. It scales like everything, right? If we're on median point. But this is a new trick that I learned a little bit a while ago, is press S and then Shift X. If you don't want to scale on a certain axis, do Shift or Shift Y. It'll scale on the other two axes, but not the one you select, or Shift Z. But in this case, Shift X does the trick where it makes it bigger, but it doesn't make it longer. Isn't that cool? So that's not perfect to the image in the background, but it's better. Make this base a little bit bigger too. All right. Make this a little bit longer. Move this back too. There we go. And then we've got this coupler here. So to do that, I'm just going to select a face, Shift D, Enter, which duplicates that face. Move it here, scale it up. E to extrude it backwards. And we're going to do Control R to make one loop cut in the middle. Enter, enter. And then we're going to bevel that. And we're going to turn this into like a little crease. So Control B. And let's press minus if you need to make one, actually two. Yeah, we want two bevel points. So there's actually like a line of faces in the middle. Then there's the outer ones. Make it real thin. Click to confirm, and then press Shift, Control minus to grab those faces along the middle. Remember, we basically contracted the selection. It was this, but Control minus grabs this line of faces, and then S to shrink that down. Makes a nice little ridge. I use that trick a lot on pipes, or to make it look like two separate pieces I've met in the middle and are connected. All right, this could use some beveling for sure, but I'll leave you to do that if you want. And the roof is definitely intersecting the pipe. So I'm going to grab these and move them back. There we go. Yeah, that looks better. Awesome. Because there's definitely some space up here above the ceiling and the pipe. Maybe just move the whole thing up a little bit. Now let's do these panels. If you look closely, you can see some nicely extruded panels that cover like the sections of this support beam. So let's see how we can do that. First of all, we need to bevel this edge and this edge to make it nice and smooth. So Control B, plus, plus, plus. And I think that's a good amount of bevel. We can see the faces there. It doesn't look nice and smooth. So press W and choose Shade Smooth. And then go down here and choose Auto Smooth. There we go. So that keeps the sharp edges sharp and the slightly curved edges smoother. Oh, we need to add a base to this computer desk here. So grab this bottom face. And I'm just going to extrude it. Oops, just going to E, not W. Extrude it downwards through the ground. Cool. And speaking of ground, let's do this ground real quick because this is annoying me. So what's going on here in this scene is that there's actually two pits, like on either side. There is a control pit where there's people that work down here and they have computers and stuff, which I think is a really cool bridge design. I've never seen anything like that. And it makes the leader on top, way up high and in control. It's like a psychological thing. So this is not like a solid floor like this. It's actually a walking catwalk like so. And then it goes down on both sides. So let's mirror this. And then one easy thing to do, I love this plugin or add-on. It's a free add-on called Auto Mirror. And once you have it installed, it shows up in the Edit tab in Auto Mirror. So Y for me is left to right, right? See the green axis? So I'm going to choose Y and click Auto Mirror. And now look at this. It splits the plane in half and it adds a modifier for mirror automatically, which is really nice. So with that, I'm going to press E and move this down on the Z axis. It is almost exactly one person tall, which is, probably 6 feet tall, 5 to 6 feet tall. So if you do have people in here, the height It's like right at the person's head. I saw it in one of the scenes. The guy was standing up and his head was right level with the floor. The top of his head was. And then Y to move this out. There's a little pit there. It's pretty narrow. EZ to move it back up. And then EY to make this floor where the other people stand on to work these computers. And you do need to have enough room for them to walk. So this looks a little narrow. Maybe move this in so there's, no falling. Skylar would not like that, getting hurt on the job. There's probably very bad benefits with the Empire. Well, who knows? Maybe good benefits. That's how they get you. Okay, so that is fine. Now, what was I going to do? Oh yeah, the cool square padded cushy panel thingies. So let's zoom in, and if we look at the image, let me turn off this down here. How many panels are there? There is one. There's a curved panel, and then they're all about the same length. They're all like the same height almost, except for the bottommost panel. There, it's a long one. Did y'all just hear that sound? That was my wrist popping, by the way. I'm getting old. So let's grab this face and Shift D, Enter, shrink it down, and let's press P to make it its own object. So P by selection. Now what that did was it grabbed that one single face, made it its own separate object. So we've got basically everything, the structure and pipes, this object, and now there's this object. Why did I do that? So that we could use the solidify modifier and add thickness automatically to this panel. And we also do need, of course, fix the array situation here, because when the size of your object changes, so does your, the spread. Now, actually, I think there is a way to use a different mode here, like fit length. I'm not really sure. I haven't played with that yet. But for now, I just have to deal with this annoyance. There we go. And the solidify down here will add thickness. Look at that. Cool. So we only have one flat face, but it automatically does all the rest of the stuff for us. Now let's make the panel, the curved panel. So I'm going to press 3 to get a flat view here. And let's do Shift D, Z to move it up. Now I need to just eyeball this and try to make it as flat as possible. You can use the grid. That's where the lovely grid comes in handy. So put it next to one of the gray lines, like real close to it, and then R and hold Shift. And we can just very fine-tunedly rotate it. There we go. Now SZ to shrink it down. We want it to meet right where the curve is. So right there. Maybe up a little bit. Okay, cool. And let's add a loop cut in the middle to bend it. So Control R, Enter, Enter. And now with that face, see that face back there? It's automatically selected. Let's drag it back. I want this to follow the curve of this. To do that, we're going to press Control B. Oh, look at that. We already have what is like 6 or 7 segments, and that looks great. Now, if you have this edged out here and you try to bevel it, it's not going to match the curve. See how they don't line up? So I found this the hard way. You kind of have to sink this in and copy, follow the lines of the wall like that, and then bevel it, Control B. And when it comes out, it's almost perfect. Close enough. There. Let's move this whole thing in just a little bit. I'm going to press Control plus to grab the whole thing. Shift, slide it into the wall. There we go. So there's no gap. Awesome. That looks great. I like that. Now we need to make the panel up here. So grab this face, Shift D, Z, and let's see if we can flip this. SZ -1, Enter. Oh, that's pretty close. If these angles of this cube and this cube were perfect, then that would have worked, but they're not perfect. So that's okay. I'm going to press Control 3 to zoom in and then period to zoom into it. R to rotate it, hold Shift to get it nice and perfect. And this is actually reversed from down here. So let me explain this. This face is solidifying with the modifier, and it's coming out towards us. So this piece we see is like fakely added because of the modifier. But what about this? This is actually inverted because it's one face, but the solidify modifier is going that way to the right. We don't want that. So we can either move the face and flip it around 180, or we can just reverse flip the normals. So spacebar, type in flip, normal. There we go. Now the normal's flipped, and it's basically the modifier is shooting out the other direction. Now we need to move this in. There we go. Cool. Awesome. Now, actually, this panel is not as tall in the set piece. Let me hide everything. Reference image here. Yeah, we got short panels that are half this length, so that's okay. We can probably just cut this whole thing in half. Okay, so Control R, Enter. Now this thing is sliced in half. Let's delete this top face. And there we go. We got a half length face. Perfect. Now things are not perfectly lined up anymore. Let me shift things around a little bit. GZ. Yeah, look at this. My curve panel doesn't go up as high as it should have. That's okay. Not gonna use a bunch of time to fix that. Let's change this to normals. We can shift D and then press, what is it, X, and it'll slide along this normal, right? Which is great. Saves us some time. Nice. And then again, shift R to do that again. Shift R again, and this will be the curve one. So let's grab this invisible edge that's hiding inside here. Control 3. Let's move it out, say here. Add a loop cut. Control R, enter, enter. With that piece still selected, Control 3 to get to the side view again, or back view, and hide this inside and then bevel it. Control B. Add a few extra. Oh, look at that. It's not quite. Yeah, it's not following it very good. I think right about there, that's pretty good though. All right, cool. Then we just need to add some more cubes up, some more faces up here. So grab that. Control or Shift D. Let's rotate it. Try to keep the spacing the same between all these faces. See these gaps in between? They should all be the same. Okay. There we go. And that looks good, right? Yep. Turn off X-ray. Again, I'm editing with the tiniest view. Sorry, I keep doing that. Probably bad for your eyes. Okay, Shift D, what is this? Y, Z? Z, no. Y, X. Oh, X. Okay, things are a little funky. Now, because this thing curves, let's compensate for with RY. Shift D, X. Keep the spacing there right. RY, and move this, oops. Move this down a little bit with GZ. There we go. You get the point. Now, to do these side ones, we're going to use this edge. And let's see, what are we going to do? Grab one edge, Shift D. Oh, let's get out of normal mode. Oh, shoot. Get out of normal mode by doing global. So Shift D, X, slide this out here, move it back. And then we're going to extrude it towards the computer console. So E, Y. There we go. Now, same problem as before. Let's flip the normals and it'll pop out towards where we want it to. So spacebar for search, which by the way is in your preferences. Flip normal. There we go. Popping out in the right place. Awesome. And then we can grab all of these. We can do this all in one quick thing here. So grab this face, this, and this. Shift DX. GY to move it back towards the computer. EY to extrude it back here. Stop right about there. And we need to flip the normals. So select the whole thing. There we go. Now the curve one, pretty simple. Just grab along, let's go to X-ray modes. You can see what I'm doing. Hold Control and click on the first and then the last edge and it'll grab the whole thing. Shift DX, GY to move it, line it up with the other panels. EY to extrude it back. Flip the normals and there we go. We got X-ray mode. Nice. And every now and then you do need to reapply the smooth shading because the new stuff won't be shaded. So W and then choose shade smooth and it'll kind of update it. Great. Now we haven't done this backside. I'm not going to waste time with that. You can't even see it. So, you know, it's gonna, you can't see it. Don't worry about it. Rule. Oops. Let's fix our array because things are getting off because we keep adding stuff. There we go. And for up here, let's do the same thing. So go to X-ray mode. So select that edge, hold Control, grab that edge, Shift DX, GY to move it back, line it up right there. And we also need to move it up a little bit. So GZ. And let's move this face, this vertex out and up. Because we have a new kind of new orientation for these panels. So just trust me. Have to do that. Control L to grab the whole thing. EY, Move it back here. Now we got this funky thing going on. We need to do something crazy. So watch this. I'm going to set my 3D cursor right here. So Shift S, cursor to selected. Then I'm going to grab all these faces, turn on my 3D cursor for the pivot point, and I'm going to scale it up. Oh my gosh, look at that. Oh, so good. Love when that works. I honestly wasn't sure if that was going to work or not. There we go. That's good enough for me right now. I'm not gonna freak out about that. And the normals are correct. It's shooting out the right direction. See, we got some thickness. Oh, it's not. My eyes deceived me. Select this, flip the normal. There we go. Cool. And then we're gonna save some time and grab all these edges. X-ray mode. Here we go. Edge. Shift Z. Move it. EZ to extrude upwards. Don't worry, we'll fix that gap in a second. And maybe actually just do it right now. There, now these panels are going up into the ceiling, so they're not really going to be seen all the way. And we need to fix the normals. Control L to select the linked faces or edges. Flip the normal, get out of X-ray mode. Oh, I was wrong. The normals were correct. Now I flipped the normals, but they're recessed into the thing. So GX to move them out a little bit. There we go. Cool. Great. So just those little, I know it's a lot of work, but look at this. Isn't that beautiful? With some shading and some texturing, those little details, I call them almost the minor level details, add so much realism to a scene. When you just have flat faces everywhere with hard edges, that does not sell it to the human brain that this is a real scene. But when you have lots of little cavities and details like that, then you add some bevel, which watch this. I'm going to add a teeny tiny bit of bevel on top of this whole thing. Oh, there it is, bevel. Hold Shift and drag this down, and then maybe add 2 segments. And we need to maybe turn this degree down to make those faces still flat. There we go. So the shade smooth will apply to the beveled edges, but not the flat faces. So maybe add 3. There you go. That's good enough. All right, cool. So see that bevel? So before and after without the bevel, just like flat 3D cubes to, what could be paneling or padding. That looks great to me. Also up here on this pipe, it's just a little too sharp. So I'm going to hold Alt, select that edge, that edge, and that edge, and hold Shift and Alt. Keep holding Shift and Alt. And maybe even the inside edges too to get some rounded on that. Oops. There. Now, if I'm gonna do the manual bevel, so Control B. Oh, that's way too many faces. Maybe we went just like 5 or 6. Hold Shift to really fine tune it. And there we go. All those sharp edges are gone, and this looks so much better. Oh, I didn't do this one. Make it a bigger bevel. Make it interesting. Awesome. And then this first one. Sweet. Soft edges look much more believable. All right. Well, that is it, I think, for this video. If I just keep going, it's going to go on and probably bore you to death. But I would rather you get into Blender and try this out for yourself. Use fSpy to grab some perspectives. Use Photoshop or GIMP to draw some leading lines to help you trace things. And have fun with that. Hope you guys learned something. If you have any questions or if I screwed up anything terribly in this video, please let me know in the comments and I'll set you straight. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.